Hi, and welcome to the Kubernetes new contributor orientation. So before we start, I would like to remind you a few items about this presentation. So first, this meeting is recorded and it will be published on YouTube. And like all the meetings in the Kubernetes community, we have a code of conduct, which you can find at the link at the bottom of this slide. And it basically sums up to be respectful to the speaker and to all the attendees, and generally just be excellent to each other. If you have questions, you can use the chat and we can immediately answer to the question if it's relevant, or anyway, at the end, there will be a Q&A section where you can ask questions, and I encourage you to do it verbally so that people watching the recording on YouTube can like follow without having to read the chat. A copy of these slides is available on GitHub, and the slides will be provided as a PDF. So all the links in the deck are clickable if you open the PDF, but if you open it directly on GitHub, it will not work. So just download the file and you will have the links. All right, so the purpose of this meeting is to orient you to the Kubernetes community. So we will try to give you a sense on how the community works and what your part could be within it. So first, I will start with a presentation about the community. And as I said at the end, a Q&A sections where you can ask all your questions. So my name is Matthias. I've been contributing to the Kubernetes community for almost 9 years now. And I'm a SIG node reviewer. And I'm also a maintainer of several open source projects in the CNCF. Okay, let's start now. So what is Kubernetes? First, the Kubernetes community, as you can see, is a very big group of people who work together to create and maintain the Kubernetes project. So these are some numbers from last spring, just to give you a sense on how big the community is. So we track data about our contributors via GitHub, and we have also other contributor tools, which report their stats to a tool called DevStats. So that's a big database of information about contributions, and everybody can explore it. It's like open and published on the internet. So last spring, we had almost 95,000 contributors who made more than 4 million contributions. And all these contributions are reviewed by just shy of 8,000 people with reviewer privileges. So I'm one of them. And we will talk more about what a contribution is and who is a reviewer later in this presentation. So now, before we dive deeper into the community aspect of it, maybe some people here are not familiar with Kubernetes, what it is and what it does. So Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration tool. Open source means that it's made by people around the world. Some are paid to work on it, but many of them are just volunteers. And the code of the Kubernetes software is publicly available under an open source license, describing exactly who, when, and how the software and the source code can be used. And the cool thing that Kubernetes does is to orchestrate containers. So I will give an example now. So businesses have many applications they need to run. For example, they could have a payroll application, logistics application, or a company website. And these applications need to run somewhere. So usually businesses have a lot of computers to run these applications on. And Kubernetes enables businesses to say, hey, Kubernetes, here are the computers I have, and here is the apps I need to run. And you can describe various levels of details about how an application needs to run, or the application it needs, and Kubernetes will run it on a machine for you. It also provides you some handy functionality for managing the application while it's running. For example, it can provide some help for the process of updating the application to a new version or restarting it in case of a failure. So the way it does this magic is what the Kubernetes contributors work to maintain and improve every day and every release, 4 times a year. So let's learn about how contributors build Kubernetes by exploring the structure of the community. So Kubernetes is an open source project within the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. I will refer it to the CNCF. So it's a non-profit organization with the state mission of making cloud native ubiquitous. It had its 10 years anniversary this year, and last year was the 10-year anniversary of Kubernetes, by the way. So to that end, the CNCF supports many open source projects that enable companies to run applications in the cloud. The CNCF provides a variety of guidance and support to its projects, including legal support, code of conduct, help with marketing, copyrights, logos, everything. So the pyramid below the CNCF represents the structure of the Kubernetes community. At the top, interfacing the most with the CNCF and presiding over many topics that affects the entire community is the steering committee. So this is a body of 7 members who are elected by the Kubernetes org members. We just had our last election, like later last month, and we elected like 4 more, like we replaced 4 more members of the steering committee. I will explain what it means to be a member of the org a bit later. So with a project so large, there are many different concepts within the project that need unique skills and knowledge. So for example, the way the Kubernetes nodes, where the workloads are run, do what they do is one area of expertise. Meanwhile, the challenge of writing and maintaining the Kubernetes docs needs folks with a different expertise, or people who work on specific area of the projects gathered together in what are called special interest groups, or SIGs. So these SIGs break up the work of building and maintaining the Kubernetes project into more sensible chunks. So sometimes, however, there are some big areas that need attention and that are both very significant and cut across SIGs. So when this happens, we can split the work between working groups. So a working group is generally temporary, created to address a specific issue, and then it disappears when the work is finished, and the resulting source code is handled by the SIG that created it. So yeah, as I said, usually working groups don't own any source code or feature, at least not in the long term. So yeah, and sometimes also a working group can become a SIG, which happens sometimes. So now that you have SIGs, sometimes their work can be quite broad in scope. So this is why SIGs are also broken down into sub-projects. So today, I mean, this is not very up to date, but we can say that there are like 24 special interest groups, 7 working groups, and 3 committees within the community. We can also further group the SIGs and the working group by their scope. So some groups operate at a project level, and all other work in the project depends on them. Other groups work at the horizontal level, which means that they have a technical focus that is deep and broad and owns core functionality from a project architecture perspective. And finally, vertical groups have a deep and specific technical focus that depends on the work of the horizontal groups. And of course, both horizontal and vertical groups depend on the work of the project groups. So this is another way of representing it. So that's a diagram of all the SIGs and the working groups currently active in the Kubernetes project. So for example, SIG release and SIG docs are groups that you might be familiar with their work, and these are typically project scope. Also, you might have encountered the work of API machinery or SIGOT, and these are horizontal groups because their work is like common to all the different parts of the project. And finally, if I take an example for the vertical group, you can find auto-scaling or scheduling or networking or even SIGNode, which I'm a member of. You might want to refer back to this diagram later as you are exploring groups to contribute to. And remember that you can ask questions whenever you want or save them for the Q&A at the end. So now we are going to move along to talk more about contributions. So I will, first of all, you can ask yourself why you might want to contribute. So there are many reasons people contribute to the Kubernetes community. For some, it's easy. It's their job, so they are required to contribute. But there are also contributors who work in the community on a purely volunteer basis. And there are also some people who are somewhere in the middle, like their work needs them to contribute sometimes, and they also do extra work outside of their job because for different reasons. So why do these people contribute without getting paid for it? For example, they may want to grow specific skills to put in their resume, or maybe they want to meet some people working in the industry, or they just like technical challenges and they think this technology is cool and they want to dive deeper and help building it. Or sometimes, like me, folks just like being part of a community of people working towards similar goals. So this is very important. You should think carefully about you want to contribute, because as you get more engaged with the community, you will get more out of it by clearly telling people what you want. And if others know who you are, what you want, and what you can do for the community, they will more easily give you work opportunities, and those connections will benefit to your contributions. So now, regardless of why you're interested in contributing, we can try to define what is a contributor. So, and in order to define who a contributor is, we should define what is a contribution in our community. So, in fact, any work you do to support the Kubernetes project is a welcome and valued contribution to the community. So that's a bit broad and vague, but this is important. It means that there is a lot of work contributors do behind the scene to make this project run, and not all of it is writing code or making pull requests on GitHub. So let's take some example. So any of you, before coming to this meeting, came to the Slack Kubernetes new contributor channel and posted a hello message? So if you did so, that's a contribution. Or if you ever read and commented on an issue or a proposal for a new feature, this is also a contribution. Or even just right now, sitting in front of your computer and watching this meeting, that's a contribution as well. So thank you for contributing. As a community, we try our best to acknowledge and appreciate contributions to the community in many forms. But then if so many different things can be a contribution, what does it really mean to be a contributor? Well, we have what we call the contributor ladder, because there are different levels of being a contributor. So starting at the bottom, anyone can be a contributor. So if you did any of the mentioned things in the previous slide, you are already a contributor. you are what we call a non-member contributor. This means that you pop into the community and contribute, likely in small and disconnected ways. But if you want to get really involved in the community, you might want to go for org membership. This is what I talked before in the beginning of the presentation. So an org member refers to a member of the Kubernetes organization on GitHub. So being an org member gives you higher privileges to interact with the tools that we use to do our work, like the Probot in GitHub, which helps you apply labels and configure issues by issuing GitHub comments directly in the issue or in the PR. So having org membership is a sign that you are an active and engaged contributor who intends to contribute in more structured ways within the community. So you are not just picking up a single issue and asking a one-off questions. So you are probably developing an expertise in certain area of the project. You might be contributed to one or more sub-project or SIGs in consistent and measurable ways. So once you will be ready to become a Kubernetes org member, you have to have some people working with you and that are familiar with your work and that they will vouch for you as sponsors for your request for being a member. So once you are an org member, there are increasing level of trust, ownership, and responsibility that you could choose to pursue. So once you've been engaged in an area for a while, you might have enough knowledge to help review contributions or pull requests from other contributors. Then eventually, and in this case, you became a reviewer. Then eventually, you might be trusted enough to have the final say on whether some code is merged or a contribution is accepted and displayed on the Kubernetes website, for example. And then in this case, you become an approver. And if you become a strong expert in a specific area who is highly trusted and regarded for your expertise, you might take on new responsibility. You might become the person other comes with questions, and you might lead triage sessions and other work for the area. And at that point, you might become a sub-project owner. And if you move on, if you are an expert who starts leading things in this area, you might also take responsibilities for various resources in this area and also how they relate to other parts of the project. For example, you might take responsibility for the README file defining a whole sub-project, which is where people would go to learn about it. And you might become the contact person who triage requests from other parts of the project. And at that point, you might be a sub-project lead. And if you are leading a whole sub-project, that's already a lot of work. But you are probably interacting on collaborating with leads from other sub-projects. And you're probably developing a pretty strong sense of the mission and the objectives and the ongoing work of the SIG as a whole. And at that point, you might be chosen to become a chair or a tech lead for the entire SIG. So if you remember the community structure diagram from earlier, the pyramid, you might wonder if becoming a member of the steering committee, which was on the top, would be a next step. But steering committee is actually an elected position. As I mentioned, we had the election last month. So you can run for steering at any point once you are an org member. But since the other org members are supposed to vote for you, it's better if you have other contributors who know you and know your work. Otherwise, you won't get any vote. So I know this ladder might seem the only one true path in contributing, but there is no single path for your contributor journey. Most contributors end up contributing in multiple areas of the project anyway. So you could be an owner in a SIG and at the same time just being a normal contributor in another SIG. And just because you are learning and contributing to this SIG, it doesn't mean that you cannot change also. And you have to remember that most contributors are at least partially volunteers. And almost everyone is doing it because they love it. So I suggest that you look around, find what you love, and just do it. So now that you know the basic on how the community is structured and how you might fit into it, you might want to do more contributions. So let's explore where you can start contributing. The fastest way to learn and make yourself useful would be to find a SIG that suits your interests and also your time zone for the meetings, because as you will see later, SIGs have like weekly or bi-weekly meetings, and only few SIGs have EMEA-friendly time zones. So you might want to to both find a SIG that works on an area you're interested in, and also that has meetings compatible with your schedule. So to come back to the slide, I say, okay, so you find a SIG that suits your interests and just start getting involved there. So it doesn't mean that you should pick up an issue immediately and start submitting code. Often, like being involved means attending meetings, reading notes, reading existing issues, reading pull requests, so that you can get a sense of how the SIG works, who is reviewing there, who is important there, so that you can start getting more connections to the special interest group. So to stay up to date with what's going on in the community, you will want to join the Slack and the Kubernetes developer Google groups. So these are the two tools that are the primary way of the community to do asynchronous work and to make announcements. So now let's explore on how you can learn about the different SIGs so that you can find the one that is relevant for you. So I suggest that you start going to the Kubernetes/community repo on GitHub. And in this repo, you can find folders containing information about each SIG and each working group. Once you click on a SIG folder in the repo, it will show you the README of that folder. And at the top of this file, you will find a brief summary of the SIG's focus area and usually a link to the detailed team charter. So this will give you like a broad high-level idea about what the SIG does. Below the summary of the group, you will also find information about when the group meets. And as I said, attending meetings is often a great way to learn more about who is in the group, what they are currently doing, and how they work. So attending meetings is a great way to start getting to know the people that you will work with, and also for them to start knowing you. Because when you are reviewing contributions for someone, it's always better to remember that he came to the meeting so that you can see and have like more connection, so that you better understand what they mean by their code or their issue that they created. You will also find information about the SIG leadership, because most SIGs have a concept of both SIG chairs and the SIG technical leads. And these leaders, they have the same level of trust and responsibility, but they work in different types of tasks. So you can think about a chair like a more project management position, while the tech leads, they do more architectural leadership, and also they manage repos and they help taking technical decisions and processes. But again, this is the general idea. Like each SIG might find a different definition for these roles, or might choose to only have chairs or only technical leads. You will also find contact information for the SIG. So most SIGs in Kubernetes do a lot of asynchronous work in the Slack channel. So I suggest that you start visiting slack.kubernetes.io and register yourself in the Slack and start exploring the different channels. if you haven't done already. Also, each SIG has a mailing list. So important announcements are done through the mailing list. And also, once you are a member of the mailing list, you will automatically receive invites for the SIG meetings via Google Calendar. So that you will have the Zoom link and the schedule for those meetings. Also, you will find information about where to find issues and pull requests related to the SIG, and also see if there is a GitHub Teams. Yeah, we also have like project boards, usually per SIG. So it's another way of exploring the open issues. Also, every contributor should join the Kubernetes dev Google group, which we refer to as KDev, because this mailing list is the primary communication channel for all the important contributor informations. So this is one way of getting the information, but if you want to find information about all the 6 meetings in one place, now we have a new contributor website called kates.dev, and on this website, we have a page that will list all the information about all the public community meetings in one place. So this is kates.dev/calendar. And once you click on one event, you will get a new window and you can add the meeting to your calendar without going to the SIG mailing list. So it's another way to try to find a group that has compatible schedules for your time. Okay, now that you know how the community is structured and what you could do to help, you might want to know if there is some actively open work that you can pick up and become a part of. So regularly, we reach out to the SIG leads and ask them to share any current opportunities. So let's try to explore. So we can start with the evergreen opportunities. So these are opportunities for work that are always available or which are available on a regular cadence. This is like more of them. I will let you check the slides. So evergreen opportunities are good because they represent work that always needs doing. And usually this work is well defined. But a lot of work is like one-off style, an issue that needs fixing or work on a new feature. Many of these types of tasks require certain skills to complete. So you might see an open request that requires a skill that you may want to develop and think that just working on it will be the good way of acquiring this new skill. But be careful here, because if the task was easy for someone in the SIG to do, then it wouldn't be an open request. So many requests you will find later with skills requirements are open because nobody in the community has the skill or the time to work on this. And if they don't have time to work on it, they probably don't have time to teach them. So yeah, you really have to find. But if you are already an expert in those skills, like I don't know, certain programming languages, or an expert in Linux networking or in cloud providers, then working on this task is a great opportunity to contribute to the community. And we really want people to help there. So yeah, here you can see some from API machinery. And okay, this is another slide which lists the calls for help for the certain skills. So if you know those skills, then you can reach out the SIG Slack channel and tell them that, yeah, I don't know, I know Flask and I can help working on Electro. Or so another for SIG docs, SIG testing. Yeah, I see there is one like help with Pro. So I am one of the maintainer of the Pro project, by the way, and we are just restarting to have bi-weekly meetings, and we will definitely need more contributors there. So if you know Pro or are using Pro in your job, reach out to us in the Slack, and we will get you started. SIG network, SIG release, SIG security. Yeah, cool. I will let you explore those opportunities. Now, I would like to take a bit of time before the Q&A to give you some things to not do, which is the common contribution pitfalls. So I will explain what we call the good first issue trap. So the scenario goes something like this. You are a new prospective contributor and you are excited to make your mark on the community. So you go to GitHub, try to find an issue with the good first issue labels, and you think, great, I will take this issue, write some code, and boom, I will have contributed to Kubernetes. Work done. Yeah. So let's back up a step. So once you pick up that good first issue, how are you going to complete it? You know, often there is like just more work than writing code. As I mentioned earlier, first we use Pro, which help us manage issues. So first of all, you know that you can issue comments to Pro. It's fine if you're not. So maybe you will just start writing code. So then you will try to find reviewers, approvers, and owners, and they will appear and make sure that you have the proper labels and stuff on your pull request. And also, once you have written the code, you will need to get their attention to review the pull request. So as we saw in the beginning, there are like probably 100 times more contributors than reviewers, even more than that actually. So when you make your PR, reviewers and approvers will be automatically assigned by Pro. And if there are issues in your code, well, you will have to go back and forth with the reviewer on GitHub. So you have to be sure that you have enough time and even and enough grit to go through this and make sure that your pull request goes to completion. Because you know, most of the good first issues that get picked up by non-members never make it to completion. So we have some stale reviews on open PRs, and then the code is never merged, and then the contributor who started to write it is discouraged. Nobody's working on it. And at the end, we have all these tail issues and pull requests sitting around and for work that we really needed. So yeah, this is really sad. So you can avoid getting stuck in this trap by joining a SIG first and sticking with it. Because when you start to know the people and see them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, you feel more engaged. And actually, those other people start to know you and also want to push for your contribution to be reviewed and merged. So I think rather than just like writing code and sending, you should start by doing the community aspect for it and like really meeting people and working together with them. Okay, so this was a lot of information today, and this was just the orientation meeting. You know, because when you first join your first SIG meeting, you're going to be overwhelmed because SIG meetings exist for active and existing contributors to collaborate. So if you join the meeting as a newcomer, people might even not notice you at the beginning because they already have many things to check in the agenda. So I suggest you go there, join the meeting, and watch how it works. And once you have seen one or two meetings on how it works, you can start adding items from your to the agenda and start speaking about it. you should also not be shy of speaking during those meetings, because I'm sure you have some interesting things to share. Or if you feel it's more easy, you can also ask in the chat during the SIG meeting, and maybe the SIG lead will help you with this. So the Kubernetes community is a big and diverse place. It's diverse in terms of people, skills, and technologies. So it might take you a while to find the place that clicks with you. And there might be a particular seed or SIG or sub-project where you will find more opportunities to build the skills and the connections that are most important for you. And also don't forget that you can move around and explore different groups before you find the right group for you. And most contributors, like me, for example, end up contributing in multiple areas. And they have also different expertise in different areas. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. Yeah, you will need to explore, find the best place. And regardless of which area you explore, we need your help. And we are really glad you are here to help us. So to sum up, getting started with the Kubernetes community means learning a lot of basic tools, processes, structures, and more. So on this last page, you will have most of the important links, and I suggest that you come back to them and as you grow in your contribution story. Okay, I think now we have 20 minutes for the Q&As. So let's go. I'm a contributor. I can try to answer you the best I can with my experience. So I'm here. So question from JB, what was my first contribution? Actually, it was a contribution in the kubectl command line. So I was working on OpenShift. I was a system administrator on OpenShift, and I noticed that some output from the OC command was wrong. There were some fields that were like not displayed properly. And since the OC command is a fork of the kubectl command, I had to submit the fix in the upstream, so in Kubernetes. And this was the first time I met Janet Kuo. I think she's now in a very important SIG. I met also Joe Beda by doing this, who is one of the father of Kubernetes. So yeah, it was cool. And I started to do like few more contributions in a short time. And then I started to make friends and I stayed. And it's been, yeah, this January, it will be 9 years. So you have to find, I think this is important as an example, because I had a problem and I wanted this to be fixed. So I went there, I learned how it worked, and I stayed until it was like merged and available in the next release. So it's really easier when you each your own scratches. Or if it's, I think that's how you say in English. So thank you for your question. Do you have any other? Thank you, Jonas.
Hi, Mathis. This is my first meeting joining the new contribution meeting. So I just had a question regarding the contribution ladder slide that you just presented. So
Yes.
my question was to move from a non-member to a member. I understand that we need to be an active contributor, but are there any specific expectations or a minimum number of meaningful contributions that is required for the transition, or is just more about the consistent involvement and impact over time?
I think now there is. I will try to find something. I'm checking how it works. Oh, come on. I know there is. Because people, yeah, of course, I cannot find it now. I should add this to the slides. Yeah, I think they are like you need several merge PRs, and you have to find, I think, 2 or 3 sponsors that will attest that you had some meaningful work, and that will do a +1. So you create an issue in the repository for the community, and then your sponsors will vote by a +1 in it, and then it will get merged. And once this happens, then you are an org member, something like this.
Okay.
If you want, I will post some information as I find it in the Slack meeting, in the
Sure.
Slack for the new contributor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So H, I'm just undergrad BTech student. I got my Anson K test 2 months ago. I spin up local Minikube cluster and explored service areas. And when I went to GitHub for source code, I was overwhelmed to see the code base. So how to understand the source code for beginners? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the kind words. Uh, what's the name? I remember there is. Well, I cannot find it. Also, I know some people from Google. They use an external tool to explore the source code. I will also post this into the Slack. But I can tell you what worked for me. So there is SIG testing, which is having meetings on Wednesdays, and SIG testing is making sure that the CI tests in the Kubernetes project are going well. And sometimes you have some test failures, actually quite often. And SIG testing is making sure that those tests failure are solved, because we need like a reliable CI. And by taking some test failures and trying to understand why they happened, if it's infrastructure related or if it's really code related, it was a good way for me to touch different areas of the code and understand part of it. Because you start by looking at the logs of the test, you see some failures, then you search for this particular log in the source code, then you discover which area, then you try to understand why there was an error there. And I find it a good way of understanding the source code. So that's one possibility. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good recommendation, because I started with SIG testing anyway. Also, one of the advantage of SIG testing is that it's a small SIG usually. like much smaller than Signode, for example. So in the meetings, you always have some space for you to speak or to ask your questions. In Signode, even if they are like weekly meetings, you could have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to have a slot uh, in the meeting to express your points. So yeah, maybe try to find some test failures and yeah. Thank you, H. Other questions? No. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for attending this meeting. The recording will be shortly on YouTube, and I will post the two links once I find them in the new Kubernetes contributor channel on Slack. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Ah, yes, exactly. Yes, H. I will post for the two things in the Slack. Yes. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good day.